Yeah, what we're going to talk about today is how couples can find the perfect or like the best wedding photographer for them. So I've got a few questions I'm going to like just shoot at you. So we can start straight away. Maybe we'll start with if you guys could tell the listeners and the viewers and the readers a little bit about you guys, about yourselves, and what it is you do in the Vancouver wedding industry.
I'm Jeff. This is my wife, Kat. We are wedding photographers based in Vancouver, British Columbia. We've been in the industry here for 15 years. And over the last number of years, our work and our art and our approach to weddings has really evolved. After we got married 5 years ago, something that kind of, what was it call it?
Really resonated with us?
No, like an epiphany.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had an epiphany. And I think prior to that, we really looked at weddings as the bride and the groom. They were the focus of the day, right? And after we got married, we realized that it was all about the relationships, and not just between the bride and the groom, but between our parents, our siblings, our family, and of course, our friends. And then the interrelationships between the two. So like our parents seeing each other for the first time, or meeting at a wedding, our friends meeting from different parts of our life, school and work and all that kind of stuff. And all of those different varying relationships are meaningful to us, right? And I think that's the connection at the wedding. And what we decided to do was really hone in on the idea of experience. And we use that word really broadly because it means a lot of things to us. Starting off with our couple, we just love getting to know our couples, like really getting to know them. We want to know, what their interests are, where they like to travel, what kind of food they love. All those things matter because those are the things that we as humans use to connect with one another, right? And when we can connect with our couples on a human to human level, that really allows us to break down that barrier of subject and photographer. And the idea is that when we show up to your wedding day, you feel like your friends are there to support you, and they just happen to be photographers, instead of here are some strangers you hired on the internet over a Zoom call, and now they've got all this big gear and they're being awkward and weird, and I'm super uncomfortable and I'm going to do this with my shoulders the whole day, right?
It's intimidating.
Totally, right. Yeah. So breaking down that barrier is like our number one priority. And when we get to the wedding day, that we're adding to the experience instead of just being like odd in-lookers from outside. And that energy that we have with our couples really permeates to their friends and their family. And that's like the secret sauce to, I think, wedding photographers who really get it. When their friends and their family see your interaction with the couple, then they feel comfortable, they relax, and they don't have that, oh, that photographer's taking my picture. And they do that awkward look and smile, right? When they get that you're just a part of that whole experience in the day, they're more willing to open up to you. And that's how you get those candid photojournalistic images where you're like, wow, like these photos really represent, they really have that authentic vibe of our day, and they really capture the essence of our family and friends. And we get asked that like all the time, like, how do you do that? And it's through this, it's through the relationships, that human to human connection, and that overall understanding of the experience being not just about a bride and a groom on the day, unless you're eloping. It's about the experience from the perspective of the parents, perspective of the friends. Like they're all there for a reason, and they were all invited there by the bride and the groom. Unless you have like, I don't know, an Asian wedding and your mom wants to invite all of her friends, that's a different case. But yeah, so that's kind of like us in a nutshell, our approach to weddings, experience forward, human to human connections. Yeah, that's basically us. We like to get to know our couples.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. I'm super curious. I mean, this isn't even one of the questions, but you're telling me all about how you build these connections. I'm really curious, like, what is something you do to like foster that rapport?
Yeah, I think one thing that we always tell all of our couples is that we are so invested in them and we're there for them, not just when it comes to wedding photography. We say this to everyone, if they have questions about whether it's timeline or they're looking for a florist, or even, when we meet our couples for the first time and we're getting to know them from the beginning, we often ask, what's your favorite restaurant in Vancouver or wherever you live? And it's just those kind of things where that help build that strong base foundation relationship from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, as the business, you're setting the tone for that meet and greet, right?
Yeah.
You can either sit down and say, hello, nice to meet you. This is my photography package. I offer A, B, and C. This is why I'm the best. Do you have any questions? That's your choice if that's the way you want to approach it. We spend probably the first 20, 30 minutes with all of our couples just getting to know them. We say nothing about weddings. We also used to, before COVID, had all our couples over to our apartment. We've set up our living room so that we can have conversations. We offer them drinks if they're up for it. We always have like beer, bubbles, beer and wine, yeah. And it's a great way to just sit down, get to know one another, and to be honest, it doesn't always work out, right? Like not everyone is the right fit for us, or vice versa, right? We might not be the right fit for them, and that's totally okay. And it's important that we know that everyone is different, and we all have our personalities and different traits, and we don't always mesh, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I miss being able to meet people in person.
We do too.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, like you said, not everyone who you meet in person is necessarily going to become a client, and I mean, it is probably more likely that they would if they take the time to come and meet you in person. But there are a lot of benefits to the Zoom interviews or the Zoom meet and greets, definitely, right?
And I mean, like we've really, with Zoom meetings, the only thing that's different is we can't share drinks. Like we can't offer you a drink.
Yeah.
But in the same way, we still start our meetings the same way, and we know that other people aren't doing it because of the feedback that we get with our couples when we're meeting with them, right? Like 30 minutes in, they're like, oh my God, we've taken up so much of your time. We're like, we would spend an hour and a half, like we've spent 2 hours chatting with couples before. That's an investment we're willing to make in our couples. And we know as photographers as well that the investment doesn't just stop at, making a booking. We know that we want to do really great work on the day. And if they are invested in us, then we're invested in them. And that just means better photos for all of us. And we're not in it to make a quick buck. Like we've been doing this for 15 years. And certainly if our whole, shtick was going to be, let's just get as many people in the door, in and out, then we wouldn't be having the same conversation, right?
Yeah, totally.
There's, at least for us, we feel that the only way to sustain a business where there's so much heart and emotion involved, you have to have these genuine connections with your couples. Because if you don't, and you're just working for anyone and anyone's booking you to do whatever job, then it just becomes a job, and then you don't care.
Yeah.
And we do care, and we want to care, and we want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So we know to sustain it, we got to continue having meaningful connections.
Yeah. And also for us on the wedding day, that's part of it. It's not just being there to take photos at a wedding. It's to see our friends get married. We may have only met them a year and a half prior to their wedding day, but the number of times that I've cried at a ceremony or at a speech, because it's just so lovely, and it's such a huge part of it for us. It's making those connections, and it really adds value to our job from our perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's been the hardest thing with COVID. Just not I think the first wedding we both went to after COVID was a thing, we both cried at that wedding. We're like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Because I mean, it's like a cycle, isn't it? You have to like them, they have to like you. In order for the photos to be good, there has to be that rapport. And if the rapport isn't there, you won't even enjoy being there. It all works together.
Yes, totally.
Definitely.
Okay, so first question. What should couples do before they reach out to a wedding photographer? What should they be doing?
before they reach out.
before they reach out.
Have they already like found you like online?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
should they be comparing lots of photographers, or should they just reach out to first person they happen to find that they think resonates with them?
Yeah, that's, I mean, I know the reality of finding a photographer is much harder because there's a lot of photographers in any city. I think that's the number one challenge. I think a lot of people go with referrals, or they look at, who worked at their friends' weddings, just to help narrow down the field, because it is such a large field. That being said, in the perfect world, you would find people who share the same values as you. Obviously, enjoying their imagery, the way that they photograph it and the way that they edit it, I think are two things that come hand in hand. I think often people separate those two things in their mind. They say, oh, I really like that pose, but I hate that editing. And I wonder if, I can get them to change. That's one that we hear often, and it's not a great way. That's kind of like saying, oh, I like that you guys, I'm trying to think of an analogy. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I think it's just worth noting that photographers' art is a combination of all of these factors, right? And asking a photographer to change one of those factors would be, I don't know, akin to asking a chef to cook a stir fry in a steamer instead, even though that's what's on the menu. It's like, well, you're welcome to go to any other restaurant and ask for steamed vegetables if that's what you want, right? So it doesn't make sense to go to a restaurant that's specifically one style and then ask them to do a completely different style, right? It's the same, it's the same meat, I guess you could say, right? It's like, oh, well, that steakhouse has steak, that steakhouse has steak, but these guys do like bourbon barbecue style, and these guys do traditional French style. So you have to combine both the ingredients and the style, right? And the photography version of that would be the way that the photographers take the photos and the way that they edit the photographs, right? Those are always combined. And I use that chef analogy all the time, just because I think people kind of understand it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like fall in love with the style of the way that they edit the photos, fall in love with the style that they take the photographs in. And then secondly, care about their values, right? Because when you can connect on the values, I think that's really important.
Yeah, it makes sense to find someone you really like. If you like all of their work when you go in, you're going to be happier with the final result.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think so.
So, what advice do you have for couples who are shy in front of the camera?
Good question. I mean, I would say, honestly, the majority of people that we meet in the first meeting say, we're so awkward in front of the camera, we're not used to it. And that's everyone. No one is used to having their photograph taken. We felt the same way when we got married.
Totally.
And so that's where a huge part of this whole experience thing for us comes into play. And, we like to take the time to make our couples feel comfortable. And, having so much experience, we understand that it takes time, and no one right off the bat is going to be, so in sync and get in this beautiful imagery. There's a ramp up period.
Yeah, we talk about that ramp all the time.
Yeah.
It can happen on your wedding day, but it doesn't have to happen on your wedding day. And that's kind of where engagement and lifestyle sessions come into play. I'm a purveyor of do an engagement session, not for the photos, but for the experience.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, well, what am I going to do with 80 photos of me?
At the beach.
Yeah. Or like at a park, like standing in the forest. Like I'm not a YouTuber. Like I don't need these photos, right? It'd be nice to have one or two, but maybe I don't need 50 or 60. But to that point, I just say, look, the second we put a camera on you, you're going to feel awkward, because that's just human instinct, right? It's not something you do every day, so you're not comfortable with it. It's just like starting a new job. When you learn that task, you're going to be hesitant, and you're going to take your time, and you're going to be careful. But 6 months from now, that task that you learned on that first day is going to be second nature. You're going to get it done in no time. You're going to have confidence. So that's that ramp, right? Ramp to confidence. And when we do our engagement sessions, we always start off, we run them in a way that I think our couples find really comfortable. So instead of just going in and saying, okay, we're gonna do 1 hour of photos, we're gonna tell you what to do, here we go, click, 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 done. Instead, we kind of spin it more like we're hanging out for an hour and a half, we're going for a walk. So let's say we go to a park, and yeah, we continue the conversation. We know we already built that base when we first met. We know what they do, we know what their likes. We just chat, we hang out, and then we'll find a spot that looks cool and we'll say, hey, okay, we're gonna do something right here. We'll give them a little bit of direction, and we'll say, as we go along, we'll give you less and less direction based on kind of how you guys are getting a hang of it, right? Mm-hmm. And we always promise our couples this, and we promise only knowing that it will work.
Yeah, we promise because we know it's
we
true.
Promise because we know it's true.
Yeah.
We promise that by the end of this session, your confidence is going to go from here to here. It's going to happen. And they go, okay, we trust you. And start off, take some photos, and sure, it's a little awkward at first. You don't really know what you're doing. We give you guys directions. By the end of the session, an hour and a half later, we've been hanging out, walking around, going through this, going at this park, and they always, literally 100% of the time, they say, you guys are totally right. We feel so much better. Like, that was really fun. We really enjoyed our time, and we can't wait for the wedding. And when we show up on the wedding day, they just go, oh, Jeff and Kat are here. Great. Yeah, come on in. Meet my mom. Right? Yeah. Instead of like, oh, yeah, come on in. You guys are the photographers, right? That we met a year and a half ago on Zoom.
Yeah.
Right? Like that rapport is built, right? And again, if you don't do it, that's totally fine. Like, we're not pushing engagement sessions by any means. That ramp will happen on your wedding day. It's just whether or not you want it to or not, right? Yeah. Like, that's 100% their choice.
I think also the other thing to remember is that for the couple, while it's their first time having their photographs taken, it's not our first time taking the photographs. We have that experience. And so that helps put people at ease that we know what we're doing and we're not all just figuring it out for the first time on the day, right?
Okay, here's a really random analogy for you. I hope this makes sense in the video. Imagine if you had to go into the doctor's office and show them a rash in a weird place, right? You'd feel super hesitant and weird about it, but you do it because you know that they're a professional, they're not taking advantage of you. They're gonna, take a look, give you some medical advice, right? Yeah. Now, let's just say the doctor looked at it and said, okay, yep, that's a rash. I'll give you a cream. I want you to come back in a week, right? Come back in a week and we're gonna take a look at it again. I guarantee you the second time you come in, you're not gonna feel as weird. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, same doctor. He already saw my rash. Whoop, here you go. Here's my rash again. It's getting a little bit better. You're going to feel more comfortable. And if he said, come back in another week, I guarantee you just walk in with your pants down and be like, yeah, there it is. Like, wait, you know what I mean? And that's human nature, right? Once the neurons in your brain become accustomed to something that happens more than once, you get more comfortable with the idea of doing it.
Yeah.
And that's all an engagement session really is getting your neurons to get comfortable with the idea of being photographed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's such a good idea. Yeah, getting couples in, getting them comfortable in front of the camera before the actual wedding, that's huge. That's such a great idea.
Yeah.
How long did it take you guys to come up with, that whole process?
Oh my gosh.
I think we just fell into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it was just always in our nature, and you can obviously tell because I talk way too much. It's just in our nature to have conversations. It's in our nature to be social. We're just social beings, Kat and I. And I think we probably started off just being like, this is so awkward. Let's talk. Yeah. we're gonna have a conversation instead of just walking through a park silently and going, stand over there, hold your hands. Hold each other's hands.
I think
that's so awkward for us too.
Yeah. Right? In the beginning, I think it was just us trying to make ourselves feel comfortable, being brand new, and then we realized, oh, this makes everyone feel comfortable. So we just continue doing it.
Yeah, it's awesome because you get better photos as well, right? You get them comfortable. Then once they're comfortable in front of the camera, when you actually go to the wedding, the photos are going to be so much better because they're not only are they more comfortable, they're excited to make even better photos than they got at the engagement session.
Totally. And I think the perfect example of you don't do that. I've had actually my yoga instructor once said that she had to get some headshots. Or was it my yoga instructor? Anyways, doesn't matter. So someone said they need to get some photos done, and they hired someone to do it. And afterwards I said, oh, how was the experience? And they said it was the most awkward thing that they'd ever done. And the whole time they felt uncomfortable, that the person never actually talked directly to them, that their direction was really obtuse and didn't make a lot of sense. And when they tried to ask for feedback, there was no feedback given. And so that's a combination of, maybe they weren't the right fit to begin with, right? That's potential. But then the second is just that photographer didn't take the time to engage with that person and make them feel comfortable, because they didn't understand that if they're not comfortable, they're not going to take good photos, right? It's a collaboration at the end of the day, right? We're not taking pictures of still life. We're taking pictures of life. And the only way you can do that is if you work together with them, right?
Yeah, that's great. I wonder, I don't know. I wonder if what a still life photographer would say. Maybe they're the same. You got to get to know the still life. You got to.
Well, I will say this. We recently did a shoot with a bunch
for the jewelry.
For the jewelry, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to throw any photographer under the bus, but man, was that easy. The
people that know how
if you're working
to
with
move,
if you are a professional model, and these girls were professional models, there was no ramp, zero ramp. It was hold my camera, boom, they're at this level. And oh gosh, it was a dream. It was a lot of fun. It was so fun, and it opened up a whole nother avenue, because obviously when we're spending our time working on building up that ramp and that rapport with our couples. And, I'm not saying wedding photography and model photography has anything to do with each other. They don't. But it really showed us that in model photography, or is that what that's called?
I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Model photography, studio photography, that the emphasis is on something completely different, right? It's potentially more on lighting and composition and how you're getting the models to express the brand that you're working for, and it's just a completely different thing. But our goal on that day was we understood the brand, we understood what they needed the models to emote, and they were just boom, right away, and it was such a pleasure to do.
That's awesome. How did you find shooting the pieces though, without the models?
Oh yeah.
It was a ton of fun. It was creatively very different, but it was nice to kind of have a different creativity part of your brain firing.
And again, not to throw any photographer under the bus, but I truly believe that wedding photographers are amazing, really, really amazing. I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about wedding photographers in general, because when you're doing still life in a studio, you control everything. You want that piece of jewelry to face that direction and stay looking in that direction forever, it will do that forever. You want the sun to come from here, no problem. You want the sun to come from here, no problem. Anything you want, you can make happen, and it can stay that way forever and ever and ever. Wedding photographers have to be product photographers. They have to be, lifestyle photographers. They have to be baby photographers, family photographers. They have to be photojournalists, and they have to deal with varying lighting situations in varying locations with almost no notice whatsoever, right? Also weather conditions, everything. And so I think if you want to learn about every style of photography, wedding photography is really awesome, because you do touch upon a little bit of everything. I think you kind of become a jack of all trades in a way. And then like Kat said, it was just super creative to work with a subject that doesn't move.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Wedding photographers don't get the props they deserve.
No.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. All right. Let's just end with this one last question. What is the most important piece of advice you would give to a couple searching for a wedding photographer?
Oh my God, that's a loaded question if I've ever heard one. The best piece of advice we would give a couple looking for a wedding photographer.
I mean, I think to kind of tie everything that.
Hold on.
Oh.
You want to be on the same page on this one?
Gosh, okay.
You want to like whisper what you're going to say?
Here, you go first then.
No, I got nothing.
Oh, I mean, we can probably say something different after.
Yeah, I got to think about this for a second. Holy cow.
I was going to say, to kind of, tie everything together, it's important to meet your photographer, whether it's, in person or over Zoom, because this is someone that's going to be spending the whole day with you on your wedding. It's not just your decorator or your florist or your caterer who, is performing their service at a very specific portion of the day. We're there from getting ready all the way to the dance floor. And it's important that you have a good relationship with the person that's going to be there and spending such an intimate amount of time with you.
Mm-hmm. The thing is about wedding photography is that it's the only thing that you have left. Wedding photography and wedding videography are the only two things you have left after your wedding is over, right? Everything else goes away, right? Your flowers, your dress, the cake, the decor, et cetera, right? All of that goes away. And so I think some people, obviously, if you have the budget and you just go, oh yeah, sure, sky's the limit, then that's great. But other people who have a budget, I think they too often constrict themselves on what they're willing to spend based on some number that they find on the internet, right? Like 10% of your budget should be on this. I actually think that you should spend as much money as you humanly think is okay for you to deal with on your wedding, even if that means losing that perfect centerpiece, because that centerpiece is going to live for one day and your wedding photos are going to live for generations.
Yeah.
And that centerpiece doesn't, there's no equality, there's no percentage that makes any sense. If you said to me, oh, 15% of your wedding photography budget, or sorry, 15% of your wedding budget should go towards photography, whatever, I'm just making that up, say 15%. After your wedding, do you believe that for your photography, the only thing you have left is just 15%? The value of your entire wedding was really just 15%.
Right.
I think realistically, after your wedding photos are worth 80% of your wedding, because that's all you have left, right? And video as well. I'm not suggesting you spend 80% of your budget on wedding photography.
No.
I just think you should consider the value that you place on those photos, and not base it off of a budget you found on a blog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my 2 cents. That was really poorly put together. I'm sorry. I was brainstorming as I went. You want me to say that again?
No, I love that. That's great. That's great advice. Because yeah, it's so true. The photos, the video, they last forever. Everything else, it's like transitory. It's only there for one day. And I mean, you want that stuff to be nice as well, obviously, but it's not the stuff that, people are going to look back on and remember. It's not going to really reflect you or the day like the photos or the videos will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of our couples already do that. Like, I think a lot of people value it, and it's not about the price or anything like that. It's just that they value the memories that they're going to get from those photos.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They value that. It's important to them. And we often hear that couples say that aside from our venue, we're spending the most amount of money on photo and video. And I think that's truly the right, and I guess I know I'm a very biased person to be saying that, but yeah, I'll spend more money on photography. But it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. I'm glad that photographers are saying that people should spend the most amount of money on them.
Send it all this way. That's what I have to say. Well, thank you so much, guys, for taking this time to chat with me. I know you're super busy, and I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Yeah,
this was a lot of fun.
Not at all. That was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.